Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Tech Talks with TFN. I am Akansha Dimri, the founder and editor in chief of Tech Funding News. In this show today, we will explore how leading entrepreneurs are reshaping the global tech landscape. Today, we are very excited to have Asma Bashir, the co founder of Centuro Global, with us. Centuro Global specializes in helping businesses expand internationally with ease and efficiency. Lovely to have you over here, Asma. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, Akansha. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to join you and looking forward to the conversation.
Lovely. Ashma, I know so much about you already by now, but I think our readers would really love to know about your journey and everything about Centuro Global. What was the catalyst behind the foundation of Centuro Global?
No problem. If I started on my journey and background, I think we'll be here all day. So how do I summarize such a long journey that I've had? So I guess, being an ethnic minority background as a female, I wasn't really destined for any career as far as family were concerned. But I did start out in private practice in law firms at the early stages of my career against the wishes of everybody that was around me. And I enjoyed doing what I did. But I was quite ambitious and a passionate individual. And so my law career led me to setting up my own business, which I did previously. And so I had a company that offered global services to companies worldwide. It expanded. It got acquired back in 2017. And I then went on to do other things. And Centuro really came about because it's really about an industry that needed disruption. So I got together with another lawyer. We had some ideas and suggestions on how to really transform this industry. And that's really how Centuro was born.
Lovely. That's a beautiful journey, and I'm sure that there would be so many challenges while you were founding Centuro Global. But I really want to understand, what are you doing with Centuro Global's AI-powered SaaS platform? How is it simplifying global journey for companies?
Okay, so it really comes from past experience. So when I had my previous business, and even when I was working in law firms, I guess one of the issues that we saw is that companies, when they're trying to expand into different markets, they need different types of advice. They need legal advice, tax advice, advice for their employees and their workforce in order to succeed. And what we found was quite often companies would go to different suppliers, they would have different needs that they would have, and it would really be a complete mess, and Excel sheets and all kinds of different complications that they would actually have to adopt to be able to get this advice. And so for us, when we were thinking about creating Centuro Global, we did a lot of research, and we found sources such as McKinsey saying 80% of new market entries fail. And we started to kind of go into that a little bit deeper. And it is because of the inconsistency of advice, people not understanding regulations and the lay of the land at an early stage, spending lots of time and money trying to research those markets. And then we realized actually this is an industry that can be simplified. And so the platform that we have, we use AI-powered technology. And what we've built is basically access to instant information, tools, resources, human-backed expertise to allow companies to be able to gain information and quality of information and knowledge to be able to get the advice that they can rely on to move faster. So to give you an example, in my previous company, what we used to often get was really large oil and gas companies. They would enter into projects, and the projects would be with clients. So they wouldn't often have an entity in the country that they're going to, and they'd want to deploy 100 people into a country, and they'd say, oh goodness, we would go over to somebody else to go and do the tax, to do the entity setup, and then they'd go to somebody else to do the workforce work permits, and then they'd go to somebody else to get employment law advice. And what happened was no one was working together consistently to deliver a simplified solution to allow the client to win their project, to be able to deploy the people that they needed to in a fast and efficient way. Instead, it was really fragmented. But our tool now allows companies to actually bring all of that together. So it is very different, and it is quite revolutionary.
Asma, you have raised some really important points over here, and I also want to understand because AI is so much as a hot topic right now and it's transforming almost each and every sector. So can you explain how for Centuro Global are you integrating AI into the technology platform to assist company into entering new markets?
Yeah, I mean, this sector, you probably know if you've used law firms or other kind of consultancy firms, you know this sector has been up for a need of transformation from a long time. So if I look back at my experience over the past years, I can see again we were doing everything was manual, by phone, by visiting. There was a lot of inefficiency in terms of the advice that would come back and forth. So I think there's a need for transformation. We didn't think AI would be transform things the way that it has rapidly since last year. I think it's come at top speed, and the transformations that we're seeing are happening on a daily basis. So adopting it into your business and into your service offerings, I think, is essential for everyone. So we've actually put it at the forefront, and I think what we're seeing is we're trying to innovate in a different kind of way. So we're putting ourselves in the shoes of the customer or the users and saying to ourselves, well, how would they want to use this? What problems would they foresee, and how can we make this better for them? And daily, what I come across is, we get customer feedback, we look at how their user behavior is, we look at the way they consume the processes, and constantly improving them. And I think that's the beauty of being in a startup and also being a company that is quite nimble, because if you're a large established firm, you have to go through so much protocol to make those transformations and changes. And so what we can do is we can pretty much customize, be flexible, adapt to the changing needs of what the client needs. And quite often what has happened now over the last, I'd say, 12 months is the client would come to us, would express a need, and we would quickly adapt to that need and create it so that we're actually delivering according to the needs of the users and what their requirements are. So it's been a really exciting and interesting journey for me personally. I feel like I'm learning more than I've ever learned in the past. And so it's been an exciting time.
I completely understand that it's a good way to ask your customers as to how you should use the technology. But are you using AI to address tax, legal, and immigration challenges?
So, I mean, it's not as simple as that. As we all know, getting advice it's not something that can be automated. So when you look at ChatGPT, you look at all these open AI forums, there's a lot of information that's available, but it's not information that you can rely on. So generally speaking, what our ethos is that we don't advise clients to go and use the OpenAI sources. We've worked on AI that we've created, which is proprietary knowledge and information. So we're using large language models to create our own systems. And it's important because there are liability issues here, and it's important to ensure clients get accurate data when they are using that. So it's in a closed environment. We're going out to government departments, we're going out to experts in other countries, we're collaborating, partnering with specialist research agencies, and we're bringing diverse data sets into the system. And what that's allowing us to do is we're also internally using the system quite a lot, and it's really trying to learn all the time. Now, personally, I've been using it myself, and I feel like, when you think about the decades of knowledge that you have and input as much as you can into a system, I found it quite alarmingly good, right? So normally you'd think, because you go to open source and you try to ask a question, you don't know if you can rely on it. But this tends to, a client asked me a question, I put it into my system and I thought, okay, this requires someone with a lot of experience to answer this question. So I crafted my own answer and our response. And then I said to my colleagues, I said, can you put this question into our system and see what it produces? So I gave them my answer and we gave them the AI answer. And they were so close together. And I was in absolute, so I thought this is exactly where we want to be, is that we can get as close enough as we can to give the information to the end user that they feel empowered to make decisions much faster. You can't obviously always rely on the AI itself. You've got to back it with human expertise, and that's where I feel we do well. We have the tools, we have the resources, we have the AI, and then we back it with human verification as well. So there's different ways for people to verify quality, accuracy, and so forth.
Okay, so I think my next segment would be about data and privacy, because I think that is also very important for Centuro Global as a part of strategy to help businesses expand. So how are you using AI in your platform for data privacy?
Data privacy to me means that we're obviously protecting other people's data and information, and I think it's really important to us that we protect that. So we actually use advanced encryption techniques. We are ISO certified, so we have an annual audit every year on our systems and processes. We use two-factor authentication. We are protected against GDPR and compliance. So I think we're quite heavy. We've got our own chief sort of security officer internally who manages all of that, and they carry out tests and so forth. So I think data privacy is really important. And when we are working on RFPs and tenders for clients, I think one of the key factors that clients ask us about is data protection. And I think it's in the field of regulations and regulatory and compliance anyway, that you have to be very mindful of that for trust particularly. So it is a major factor and something that we are constantly monitoring.
Got it. Tell us about your competitors. How are you trying to be different from them?
Okay, so I mean, competitor-wise, I would say if I go back to thinking, it's the traditional firms. So companies that provide services, I would say pre-pandemic days. So they would offer the traditional legal advice and service. And I think many companies have had technology, for many decades. So you have your case management systems, you have various other tools that you use. So our competitors are going to be those large traditional firms. What we're trying to do is trying to be slightly different. So when you have, how the banks, the challenger banks like Revolut and Monzo challenge the traditional banks, that's how we're trying to portray ourselves, that we are challenging the traditional methods of professional services. And so we feel that there are better ways of doing it, and also democratizing access to information, because for long the big players dominate the market and there isn't room for anyone else. And I think post-pandemic days now, the world has become more global, access to technology, and what we're doing is empowering. I think it's another way is sustainability is really important to us as well, is empowering local providers in other countries to become global overnight, and to have access to clients that they probably wouldn't have had access to before. So it's making it really equal and fair and just across the world.
So Asma, that's about your competitors, but at the same time, I really want to understand how much funding you have raised and if you're looking to raise more in 2024 or beyond.
Sure. So last year, we were very fortunate to have raised, I think it was around $4 million, really, to help us grow. So being a startup, obviously, growth is very important for us. And that funding enabled us to grow our teams, to put systems and processes in place, which we didn't have previously, and to advance our technology as well. And this year, I guess what we're looking at is expansion to the US. Ourselves. So as a business, we want to, it's a big market, right? So a big opportunity for us. And so we're looking to expand to the US. Our revenues have been steady. We've had difficult times. We raised funding during a very difficult economic climate. That was challenging in itself. And I think now looking ahead, the US is the place I feel like our product will really grow. And I think that's where the demand is. That's where 40% of our customer base is. So that's the direction that we're taking at the moment.
Got it. And in US, which coast are you looking to, east or west?
I think East Coast at the moment. So we've attended a few trade missions where I've been to New York, had lots of support from the Department of Trade in the UK, attended lots of events with the British Embassy in New York as well, and recently came back from Washington where we were selected as one of the cohorts. I think there were about 15 companies from the UK selected to attend an expansion summit that happens once a year in Washington, and that was an experience, and that really kind of sparked our interest in accelerating our growth into the US.
That's wonderful. And also, so as I understand, your 2024 goal is to expand in US. Is it happening right now already?
So we are in the process of doing our own market research, and in terms of, because again with the US you're looking at, it's almost like There's lots of different countries within the US, the states and the state departments and the different tax laws. And so when we look at that, this is exactly what our platform does and simplify. And so through the learnings of what is going on in the US, we are also implementing some of the changes into the technology as to how other companies find this complexity so difficult. So right now we are looking at incentives. What are the benefits from each of the states? Because the interesting part is in the US, a lot of the federal states and the governors that are part of that, they offer you different incentives depending on where you're going to set up your entity. And so it's quite nice to explore, and they invite you, they encourage you, they incentivize you. So for us, we're looking at 3 possible locations such as New York, Boston, or Philadelphia. And so it depends really on where we end up, but those are the 3 areas that we're looking at the moment.
That's a great plan, I would say. But I would also like to focus on your path as a founder. Could you describe the moment when you decided to pursue the founder's path and what motivated you to take that leap?
Okay, so if I'm going to be completely honest, I don't think I ever thought myself as a founder, right? Because it's not something, some people dream that they're going to be a founder and you have a spark, an idea, and you have a business. I think I guess the way that I started the company was really the need came from the client before I started the company. So I recall back when I started, I'm having a coffee with one of my clients from a previous role, and we were just having a friendly social, and they said to me that they had a need that they wanted me to support with. So I thought I was giving friendly advice on what they should do, and little did I know that friendly advice led to them inviting me to their office and trying to understand some of their issues and challenges that they were having. And what it required was for me to help them get in front of the government and being able to tell them what their issues were. So when I assisted with that part, and they actually were allowed to get some discretion from the legislation, it ended up being a project for me to manage. And so that's really where the work started. So it's not that I started a company thinking these are the things that I need to do or these are the steps that I need to follow. I had work on my desk from before I even thought about it. So when I started that project, it just continued to just increase at a rapid pace. So I never managed to get my head out of the files to be able to say, oh, I have a business. So I was actually I was responding to demand rather than me personally thinking I'm a founder. And before I knew it, the company had expanded, had grown. People had had people working with me, had huge clients, the likes of Saudi Aramco, some of the largest oil and gas companies in the world, some of the largest multinationals. And when I sold it, I looked back and I thought, gosh, really? How did I do that? And I think when you think too much or you spend too much time planning, maybe you lose the opportunities. I think you've just got to be confident within yourself and you've got to feel like you can achieve. And for me, it was always about the problems. It was always about, oh gosh, somebody's giving me a problem. I have to find a solution. And that was my attitude. It was almost like I took it on myself as a personal challenge that if they were having an issue, I needed to solve that issue. I love solving problems because I've been through problems all of my life. I don't think there has been a day that I've never had personal issues, particularly challenging from different places. And so for me, I think that was my mindset, that I was actually made, my brains just were geared that way, that as soon as someone presents me with a problem, I will go and find a solution.
Got it. Yeah, that's true. I think when you become a founder, then every day is a drama.
Yes, absolutely. But it's a bit different because I think the first time I started a company was very different because it was driven by a different need. The second time founder, you actually end up enjoying it more because you have the past experience of the things that you probably didn't do right. And then the second time round, you're able to actually impart some of that knowledge to others around you. And I enjoy that part. I like nurturing. I like seeing other people grow. And one of my best things that I did in the past company was the teams that grew. I think there were such talented teams that came out of university, graduates, young people, so talented, so smart. And they're now, working in some of the largest companies in the world. So that's quite rewarding to know that you were there and you did that and you helped them.
I think I'm going through that phase right now that I'm hiring a lot of graduates, and these kids are so talented and so driven and
Absolutely.
so
Yes.
enthusiastic that and then they are like very thankful for the opportunity that they're getting. But they are like, it's a very exciting scale up phase when you go through it.
Yes.
I can totally relate to that. But could you share some valuable lessons you've learned that you knew, that you wish you knew before starting?
I think structure, probably one of the things that I lacked when I first started out. As I said, it was chaos, because I never had time to plan or think. And I think one of the things that is really important is really to give yourself time to think about how you're going to do things, give yourself time to be able to visualize and plan ahead. I was constantly always dealing with the chaos. And so therefore, I think I should have been more structured, and I should have been more aware of those things and given time to it. I think because I was so focused on getting results, that's really what motivated me. And I didn't care how I was doing it, what I was doing, whether it was haphazard, whether it was like this. I just wanted to get the results. And that's what pushed me to keep going. But I think sometimes you have to take a pause and you have to step back, you have to think, and you have to really try and maybe re-engineer things and do things a little bit more with more efficiency, because when you're doing it yourself it doesn't impact you so much, but when you have lots of people around you, I think it does impact. And therefore, if you are going to impart and you're going to share information and it's going to be a team environment, you've got, and I think if I could go back, I would probably have spent more time training and more time supporting in that area so that we could scale faster. And I think when you're a founder on your own, it's very true what people say. It's very lonely at the top because you don't know who to talk to. You don't know who to share that information with. I mean, now I think young people have more access to coaching and mentoring because there's more online capabilities, there's more awareness, there's more social media. So people know what to do. But I think when I first started, there was no awareness of anything. It was almost like you're left in the dark room and you either make it or you break it. And you ask yourself those questions, you put yourself to sleep, and then you wake up again and you ask yourself the same questions and you just carry on. So it's just really having the knowledge and understanding of how I could make a difference. And so there's quite a lot that I could have changed. I think I probably could have been braver with invest. One of the mistakes I actually made is I sold the company too soon. I was too naive. I didn't have enough understanding and knowledge about funding and investing. If I had gone down the route of because I had never taken any money from anywhere, and I was actually running a business purely on cash flow and everything, and we never had any issues. And so if I could go back, that's one of the things that I probably would have changed, is rather than sell it, is I would have probably gone for investment and grown it differently. And it would have been a different situation today.
Yeah, that's so true. Like, you need knowledge all the time. You have to grow your knowledge as a founder. I mean, there are so many times it's suffocating for me also. I mean, there is so much knowledge online on internet, but like technology is something which like grows every day, and you need to keep a tab on that, especially if you're running your own products. So you need to, so I could completely relate to that, and that is some great insight that you have provided. One very important question: what are the challenges as a female in AI you are facing, and what you think could be a good advice for other females who are in AI you would like to share with them?
As a female, I personally don't know if I'm facing challenges with it. I think there's not enough females in the space of technology itself and scientific subjects. I think it's dominated by those who, people, I guess, it comes down to subjects, information, because this is a very technical subject. And then it comes down to whether women actually take those subjects, whether it even interests them, and therefore when they pursue careers or when they're building businesses, are they thinking scientifically? So for me, if I was to consider, and I think I've spoken to lots of different forums, I go on female founders missions as well, and I'm part of various groups, I don't see enough women who understand the adoption of AI and what they're doing with it. There are some very smart women out there that are doing it, but there's very few of them. And I think it's really hard to find them. I know out of Oxford and Cambridge, there's quite a lot that's coming out of there. But again, if you look at the sort of the global landscape, you know, you're looking at very, very small pool of people in the, you know, as females who are actually specialising. I mean, it's a subject that's evolving very recently. There's some great names out there who fully understand it and appreciate it. But there are going to be challenges. So unless women, you know, equip themselves and learn more and adapt to the changing times and get used to the idea of the AI is going to change things, and therefore it's going to become a very important part of any job that you do in the future, then it's upskilling yourself and really it's self-motivation and trying to do as much as you can to get yourself ahead of competition. There's a lot of support out there for it. I certainly see a lot of government initiatives that support women to try and upskill themselves, and I would encourage people to go out and find those.
Lovely, Asma. That was some great points that you've shared. And thank you so much for taking out time for TFN and sharing your insights with us and everything that Centuro Global is doing. And thank you everyone for joining us over here. This is Akansha signing off from Tech Talks with TFN. I'll be back with another episode very soon with another inspiring leader in tech space. Thank you so much.